would join in and then one person would join out. Yeah.
Right.
I guess it's one of the
So
one of those days.
Noah, how are you feeling? The past couple of days, it's been a roller coaster, huh?
Honestly, as an Iranian American, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it has been. And I know you probably feel the same way. I don't know what to feel or to believe anymore. But at the same time, like the way he worded it was also vague. Like there's ever since like this morning, there has also been all this rhetoric back and forth like we saw in the days before this. So it's like nothing's changed. So now I'm like, okay, so what did Trump say? Did he actually mean what he said? There was going to be a peace deal, or now there's like, because I was also seeing like on Iran International some like lawmakers and some like religious figures like making fun of like mocking the peace deal and everything else. So like I'm like, okay, so
yeah.
Yeah,
you know, he did say today though that he's not going to take a bad deal, and I think we know what a bad deal means, which it means no tolls on the Strait of Hormuz, no.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no tolls, no nuclear weapons, which is the hardest part. So actually, opening up the Strait of Hormuz is relatively easy compared to the nuclear material because the nuclear material, even if you actually went in, did a whole operation, and got all of that uranium out, well, the Islamic Republic actually knows how to enrich it. How are you going to take away that knowledge from them? They can just do it in the future, right? So what's to stop them from just waiting out Trump's term, waiting for another president, maybe, you know, 4 years from now, maybe 8 years from now, maybe 2 presidents from now, and just doing it again?
Yeah, you're right. And also, I did something that I learned about a month or so ago. After the deal was announced, I kind of disconnected from everything. I took a mental health evening, and I kind of just like relaxed, detoxed everything. Which, like, when you have a bad mental day, I think that's kind of the best thing to do, so you don't get too like doom scrolling and everything. So like I learned that the hard way a while ago, but today I'm doing great.
That's great. That's good to hear. Yeah, so since we have 4 people, well, including me at the moment.
Hey, Sophie.
Yeah, hey, Sophie. Hey, Daniel.
Guys, you might have a bunch of people coming over. They're just chatting away in the other room.
Of course they are. They always do.
Yeah.
Most of those people actually like Ali's thing a lot and have said, Ali, that they like your atmosphere and they like you. So I think they're just late.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
I bet you more than anything they forgot what time it is, and they're gonna soon realize, oh crap, it's 9 Eastern time. We need to get over here.
Well, yes, and I actually for my own mental health, stormed out of, like, I just said I'm not interested in hearing from like anybody else on the topic when I left earlier. I was like, because if you've had, aside from everything that's going on in Iran, which is freaking me out, and the White House and the Ivanka thing, when you have people where there's been any personal attacks directed at people, and then I belong to apparently 2 different groups identity-wise that apparently those are just open season. I'm like, I've run out of patience and tolerance. Not interested. So
since before everyone moves back in, if you guys in the chat want to ask questions, like in the YouTube channel, like please go for it, and I will answer them, because someone actually asked a question, and they said, so High Turban said, why bother posting anything? It would be better for Trump to keep quiet than to create this tension, mental distress for Iranian people, and anger American people who are losing patience. Yeah, I think it definitely angers more Iranians than it would Americans number-wise, because as soon as that statement came out, I had a couple people that I talked to in Iran Just like how Armin had hundreds of people messaging him, I only had like a couple, and they immediately got depressed and they got very angry and super stressed out. And in the middle of the stream, I was kind of like, I'm like sending like a text message and just copying, pasting, and being like, it's not meant for me or you, which is my response to you, High Turban. It's not meant for me or you. This is meant for the Islamic Republic for one reason. Actually, well, let's just say two. One, to tell the Islamic Republic that also, guys, if your mics are on, thank you.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
No worries. The Islamic Republic knows that now the US has all of the Persian Gulf Arab countries on its side. Okay, that was the very first point that I made a couple days ago about this. Was it yesterday, actually? Wow, time flies. And then the other point is to tell the Persian Gulf Arab countries that this is going to be a lot on you guys as well. You're going to have to step up here. Because if we leave, you guys are all screwed. The IRGC just declared that the Strait of Hormuz is 10 times the size it was. Who suffers from that the most? All of you guys do, exporting your oil. What happens if tomorrow the IRGC is like, you know what? We're only going to let 3 Bahraini ships pass every day. We're only going to let 10 Qatari ships pass every day, as opposed to the unlimited amount that could have happened before. Their income, which they undoubtedly will, guys, they will undoubtedly do this. They will limit the ships and make them pay tolls because the Islamic Republic right now is much weaker. What they want to do is weaken the other countries around them while they have time to rebuild. That's going to be their long-term strategy. So if I'm the Persian Gulf Arab countries, I'm like, oh God, like US, do something. You either make a deal that is to our benefit, which there is none, or you get the Islamic Republic to finish them off. And I'm not sure exactly why it's taking so long. I would love to find out in the future why it's taking so long. Some people are like, there's like all sorts of rumors going around right now. Like the craziest one is that Mojtaba is alive and he's in a bunker. And the only way that he communicates with people is by couriers. So like people handing letters and notes to each other. So it's taking a super long time to talk to him because they have to like deliver a physical note to someone, and then he has to like drive all the way over to the bunker and give it to him. And it's like, I don't know, man. I don't think that's the reason. There's got to be something else. Like Armin thinks the Arab countries had to have more time to defend themselves. Sounds right, you know, like could be that. I need to know the reason soon. I need to know the reason soon. I don't like that it's taking this long. Yeah, Ian said in our group chat said he's afraid of Jewish magic. That's true. Everyone should be. What do you guys think about why it's taking so long? Like Trump has given them multiple chances to get back to him regarding a deal, and on every occasion, he is told that you know, like, oh, we're super close. Like the regime's like, yes, we'll give it to you, and then the next day they're like, oh, actually, we don't know if we'll give it to you. Yeah, go for
If
it.
you want.
I mean, just as an outsider, one thing I've noticed recently is that every time we see some leader come up, and you know, like we had Gully Buff went on state TV, and then today we saw this video from someone criticizing Pezeskian, and something I noticed is that all of these men are extremely old and out of it. And so I haven't really seen anyone ever really, but anyone from the IRGC that seemed to me like a smart person who is of a healthy age and, you know, like wants like, normal levels of ambition and stuff like that. It's just sort of seems like they're all very old and very clueless. Does it seem like maybe that's like a piece of the discussion that we're not really having. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. I actually had that thought like in the shower a couple days ago, and I completely forgot about it. I think that's the same gripe that a lot of young Americans have with members of Congress. They just, they're like, these guys are so out of touch with everything. And mental acuity definitely plays a part in that. Which, I mean, in this case, is kind of working to our favor.
Yeah, I mean, like whatever you think of Trump, he's certainly sort of part of this the last era of the boomers being in charge in the United States, right? And it seems like maybe that's also the case. I've actually never seen Vahidi speaking on video, and so I don't know what to think about him. But listening to the statement that he recently was forced to write, I guess, right? He sent a statement himself recently, and that statement made me think he's also delusional, because he's still talking about expanding the empire of the Islamic Republic. He doesn't seem to be thinking about survival, which is what I would expect, right? And so
he isn't thinking about survival.
I don't, not based on I don't know. We could go over the text of the statement that he made, but it was all about it seems to me like he's still thinking that he's in a position to conquer, and maybe he knows something that we don't know, but it seemed like that's what was going on. So I haven't seen any evidence. I'm actually, let me put it this way. Sorry, I'm kind of jumping in this conversation. I've seen evidence of propaganda that made me think that there's somebody smart behind the propaganda. I've never seen someone speaking and making a statement on behalf of the IRGC that was anything but totally delusional. And so I'm wondering, when do we hear from the person that's really sharp and, waiting out Trump and doing all these things? I think they just have, it seems like they have delusional ideas of grandeur, and they are totally misinformed. That's how it seemed to me. So, but anyways, I'm lacking a lot of information on this as well, because I rely on the very few times that I get to see these people and hear a good translation. So,
yeah, yeah, these are good points. So I'll say two things that most people don't know. So Vahidi holed himself up in a bunker from the get-go because he knew from the very beginning that the level of military power that the US and Israel were showing in the last strikes was not enough. He was like, this is not the United States military that I know and have been fighting against my whole life. They should be destroying us multiple times stronger than this. And he holed himself in the bunker, and he was like, well, they're going to come again. They're going to hit us again, and they're going to hit us much stronger the second time. I'm going to make myself disappear. No traces of me, no nothing. Today is the first bit of news that we've gotten bit out of him, which was a written paragraph that he must have told someone or typed something, which was the only thing. And it wasn't crazy on it. You weren't going to listen to that and be like, whoa. So he's trying to keep himself behind the scene, winner takes all kind of mentality. The second thing, most people don't know. So when I talk to people who've been very much businessly successful in Iran, they tell me that there is no industry, no sector, you can't even build a building without the IRGC having a touch in it, dipping their finger in it. They know about everything. They run the economy. And what that means is, but that's the best time for me to lose my train of thought, isn't it? Okay. They are all in it together, which means that these people will actually have Pezeshkian come out and say something stupid, and they know he's going to say it a lot of the times, not every time. So sometimes he's actually slipping up. But a lot of the times they'll be like, okay, we designate this person to take the blame, which is why the IRGC let out that video today. If you guys watched Iran Revolution Live, Armin was saying there was a member of parliament who released a video who was just clowning on Pezeshkian, saying, you're the reason, you and Arakchi are the reason why the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei died. And you're waiting to do the same thing to Mujtaba Khamenei as well. And they do this all the time, where they designate someone to take the fall and take the blame. And it's usually kind of more like the reformer people. And I didn't know how important or like how deep that ran. These guys really know their stuff when it comes to political division. They'll create a straw man for you. You attack the straw man. People's rage subsides. Enough people die, and then go on to the next cycle. And in fact, a lot of the people in Iran think that the bazaris, so like the people who like run the shops in the bazaar, who came out and started this entire revolution in the very beginning, were actually let to come out by the IRGC. It just ended up spiraling out of control, and I mean, they paid for it. But it's a notorious tactic that they use. None of them are smart, though, Ian. Like, none of them are smart in the way that me and you would think, because they're very much limited. Some of them might not even believe in Islam, okay? But because they can't think in a certain way because of the ideology around them, their hands are tied like the entire time. Yeah, it's great tying their own hands. I think I didn't see any response. Oh wait, Noah, did you want to respond to this? I forgot.
Also, you had a one in the chat from our Halda PhD.
Yeah. I think Noah asked me if he could go after you. Noah, did you? Noah, are you there?
Sorry, it's my internal mic.
Go for it.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a one and stuff. I agree with everything you say, but there was something that, and it didn't click to me until I came over here from watching Iran Revolution Live, because they were reading, Goldie and Armin were reading super chats, and someone wrote on the super chat, and this made me think this might be a good, you'll see why I think this. Hajj ends on the 29th of this year. So I think on one of the super chats, someone was asking, were all the countries like in the Middle East wanting to wait until Hajj was over just so like it wouldn't ruin Hajj? So I didn't know what you thought about that, Ali. I found that kind of interesting, because then the argument was, well, then why didn't the U.S. wait until after Ramadan to attack? Because we attacked during Ramadan. So that's just something to think about.
Yeah, sure. So Saudi posted, the official defense ministry, Twitter, posted a video of them with all of their anti-air defense, like all their missile batteries and even like artillery and all of that. And they were just saying, like, we're ready to keep people safe during this religious time, which was a direct message of like, if you guys strike during Hajj, we're still ready. So that must have been because the IRGC were thinking about doing it. And, this whole time, the IRGC could strike as well. There's nothing to say that they won't do a preemptive strike. And as for, there's a lot of people going to Hajj, and it's going to harm the Saudi economy by not having them go there. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure if the United States or Israel would really halt the operation if they found a good time to strike just because of that. I would highly doubt it.
That was my thinking too, is they would have struck regardless. And the main explanation, they found out that Ali Khamenei was having a meeting above ground on the 28th. And they were like, screw this, we're moving up the timetable. So yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, but who knows? Tomorrow we could wake up and it would say, at the request of Saudi Arabia, I have, like, I don't know. It's been such a wild roller coaster of like unpredictability, which I get it. I get that's the point. I get that it's supposed to be unpredictable, but Halda, you had a question?
I actually have two questions.
Go
Do you want me to ask them both right now or do one back to back?
Yeah, let's do both.
Okay. The first question is that I've heard some conflicting stories. Actually, I've heard conflicting stories for both of these, so I just wanted to know what your opinion is. The first one is I have heard that Iranians are unable to leave Iran of their own free will unless they, sneak out. But then I've heard, on the other hand, that they can if they wish to. Do you know what the truth is there?
I think it depends largely. The airports just opened up yesterday. I don't know how many flights there are going out, and every flight can only hold so many people, like 100, 200, maybe 250 people. As for going to the border and just leaving, I'm not sure if the border police from the Iranian side would stop you from leaving. I'm just not sure if other countries would be letting you come in. That's something that I'm not really too sure about.
Yeah, I found that kind of curious too, because like I said, I've heard two different stories. I've heard that no, you can't leave. Unless you have, a place to go, so you're not going to be accepted into like Armenia or Turkey or something like that. Like as a refugee, for example.
That makes sense.
You think that's what they would do, in this circumstance. You think that they would leave and fight from the outside versus the inside, and then the second question is,
before you ask it, someone in the YouTube chat said, yes, my aunt just left Shiraz and arrived in Los Angeles last week.
Super awesome. Okay, that's good news. So basically, it sounds like they can go as long as they have a destination, not just as refugees. Okay. Then the next question I had was, I know all of us on the outside, I know all, the dissidents, Diaspora, and even Iranians on the inside obviously support the Shah, being the transitional leader. But I've also heard stories from the inside, supposedly, that they do not want the Shah, that they want somebody internal, which I find actually rather confusing, because I don't know how you could have a transitional leader from the inside, simply because they would obviously be targeted by the IRGC regime, whatever, and taken out. And surely they wouldn't be supporting somebody that would already be in the IRGC or the regime, would you think?
100%.
Yeah, okay.
And then you were saying who wants an internal leader?
I said that I have heard that there are Iranians within Iran, that do want the overthrow of the regime in the IRGC, but they want an inside transitional leader because they don't trust the Shah.
Yeah.
And I just find that really unbelievable. So I just wanted to get your opinion.
No, it's believable. Oh, they're definitely there. Even outside of Iran, in the diaspora, I personally know people and have cut them off because I want the Shah. And even if I didn't want the Shah, but I wanted a free Iran, I would see that the only logical way to get to a free Iran would be through Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi stepping in, being the transitional leader. Then we can go and have votes for whoever we want.
Right.
So if people spend more than 5 seconds, in my opinion, thinking about it, they'll realize that, okay, well, there's actually no alternative. Like, this is a proven thing. We saw people come out in the millions and they were saying his name. That hasn't happened to anyone else. Whoever says that they want another leader is one of two main reasons, okay? Either incredibly stupid or they are pro-regime.
And that's what, like I understand that not everyone's going to support the Shah. I get that. I mean, we're all human. What I don't get is how you could support somebody within Iran. I mean, who is this someone? And how on earth does that work? Because if they are not, like regime affiliated, they're not going to live anyway, through this.
Yeah, when I talk to these people, when they say someone new who's not regime or not, monarchist, they'll be like, oh yeah, some new politician from the people will emerge. And I'm like, you know what? That's great. We want that, right? We want that.
Yeah.
That's like the whole goal of this entire thing. But that's like that's just not the time. Like you're gonna bring someone up and try to have them rival Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who has tens of millions of supporters. Like, is that, are you trying to fragment the country? Are you trying to, like sow division? Like, now is not the time.
I agree with you.
It's like, Armin does this so much better than me, okay? Armin's a great person because he values people based on kindness. And I try so hard to value people based on their kindness. And I oftentimes fall into the trap of valuing them based on their intelligence. And I've been trying to be better about that for a long time.
Well, I've been trying for a very long time too, and I'm a complete failure at it. So don't worry about it. I get it. It really threw me off. I just both of the conversations threw me off today. So I just wanted to hear what your input was, and I appreciate it.
Yeah, but just don't be surprised. There are a ton of people outside of Iran who are much more comfortable saying that, oh, Pahlavi's not anything, he's not going to come and do anything. We need someone who's not mullah and not monarchist and not MEK. And I'm like, okay, good luck. Like, go. You and the other like 20 people can go and vote for that person.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, next to respond, we have Noah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ian.
Yeah, so I have been seeing videos of people leaving through Azerbaijan to like not being refugees, but going to like different places. So you're absolutely right on that. And also in terms of like kindness, I have a motto. If you treat me with respect, I'll treat you with respect. Now, if you don't treat me with respect, that's a different story, But treating people with kindness, that's how I was taught as a kid, and maybe it was just because of how I was brought up. But also don't also like be kind and then be naive. That's something like I've had to balance out over the years because I was taken advantage of for being kind. So that's also another thing to, but it's, you'll get it, Ali. Don't worry about it. It just takes time. But I can't see you being taken advantage of. That's the thing. I can't see that happening. So
thank you.
Ali, you're doing great. I just wish
you are doing great.
Thank you. Chat. Thank you so much. Yeah, it does take time. Listen, if people are naive, you can be naive when it comes to actions that only affect yourself. And you guys know what I'm talking about. If it affects other people, stop, think about it, have a structured discussion. It's not just you.
Okay, mean smart guys need love too, guys. Keep that in mind. Next topic is Ali Farbach. Go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, Ali, right before you say that, someone was saying, why am I saying that it's taking too long? The only reason I'm saying that, by the way, the caveat is I know that this could take years, okay? The only reason I'm saying it's taking too long is because the people are suffering. That is the only reason. Other than that, I'm prepared. I'm prepared to see it to the end, no matter what happens. Oh, yeah, sorry, go ahead, Adi.
No, it's okay. And I agree. It is taking too long, to be honest. I'm sorry if this is a dumb question, but someone asked me this with someone I was talking to personally at my work. And I kind of want to know if this is possible. Is it possible that the US and Trump make a deal with Iran, but still be at war with the IRGC? And the reason I say that is because the IRGC is technically a terrorist organization. Is it possible to both be done at the same time? Still be at war with a terrorist group within Iran, but technically have a peace deal with the country itself?
Anything is possible, but it depends what your definition of war and peace deal is. Like, when you were discussing this with someone, did they say anything?
Let me give you some context a little bit. In a sense, there's been rumors or there's been some reports that the IRGC is butting heads with the Artesh. Okay, to give you an example. It's been said, and Armin has said this, that the Artesh is really hardcore, more about, not really hardcore, but they're more on the side of the people of Iran and protecting Iran. So if you have a peace deal with, let's say, the country, the Islamic Republic, the countryside, and not so much the IRGC side, does that create more division between the Artesh and the IRGC? And could more military strikes be done against the IRGC even after a supposed peace deal?
Look, it's possible, but here's why it's unlikely. The IRGC could just, they're so much stronger than the Artesh, than the army. It's not even really close in terms of who can destroy the other one fastest. And it's been designed that way since the very beginning of the Islamic Republic. If you wanted to make a deal with the Artesh, you'd have to have here's the problem with just negotiating with the Islamic Republic as a whole: trust. You can say things, and then the next day they can just completely turn their backs on you, and they've done that 10 times by now. Getting the Artesh to agree to a deal would mean two things. One, they're immediately going to get targeted, the commanders, and they're all going to get replaced, quote unquote. Or two, you're going to end up seeing a pretty bloody civil war type of thing, because not everyone in the Artesh is going to be on the same side. Some of those commanders are going to be anti it, and the IRGC are going to take their side, and there might be something I'm missing here, but that's just, I don't really see that happening.
Okay, well, thank you. I was just curious. It brought up, it was a point that someone at work and I were talking about, and that's why I was curious what your opinion was.
Yeah, our best hope for the Artesh is for them to step in after everything is about to be done and provide that security. Because at the end of the day, you don't want a country like Turkey to come in and be like, we need to establish a buffer zone. We're going to take 200 kilometers of your land. No.
Yeah, that is a fear of mine as well. So,
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you.
Okay, to respond, we have Noah.
Or Azerbaijan, or any of the others. I agree. But also, the only people I could see making a deal, other than the quote unquote politicians, is the Artesh. And maybe, and you're right, and you are right, Ali, the Artesh isn't fully on board all together, but at the same time, and maybe Jeffrey can help me with this as well if he wants, but they'd be the only ones who I would trust to make a deal and then try and take out the IRGC that way. But the IRGC, the problem is they are designed to protect the Islamic Republic from being destroyed. So that's the other issue. So I don't know. It's complicated, but those are the only people I could see making a deal is with the Artesh.
Yeah, it'd be hard. It'd be very, very hard. And by deal, I think you probably mean like the Artesh comes out in the latter stages when we already know. Like, here's the thing: the Artesh comes out by itself, they're just gonna get obliterated. But if they come out while the people have done their uprising, after all the bombs have dropped and destroyed, as Jeffrey likes to say, the IRGC down to the lieutenant, then it's possible. And then the Artesh actually has a lot of power, and you have to be wary of that as well. So if they are as loyal as some people think they might be to the people, that means that they've saved up everything they have for the last possible moment when they know that we're going to win, and they can step in and guarantee that victory.
Very true. But we've also seen via Tusi that there have also been fights between the Artesh and the IRGC already. So, but you're right.
Yeah, that report was actually completely unfounded. There was no.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I know. It got a lot of attention, right? Because everyone is looking for that. Everyone wants that to happen. But the report didn't give you a single source, and it just said that throughout the past few months, there's been some clashes. Now, I told Armin, I'm like, all right, maybe someone went haywire, got super like stressed, freaked out, started shooting in the Artesh. But like to have organized orders structure come in from the Artesh's command structure and be like, yes, we are going to fight the IRGC. Like, no, not yet. I think Jeffrey wanted to respond, right? Am I right, Ian?
Yeah. Well, go ahead, Jeffrey.
All very valid points. Sorry, it took me a minute to jump in. I just had to deal with some, Paisan's issue out of Rhode Island. Just saying a shout out there, Vinny. So absolutely right. The ideal would be a massive air campaign that targets all the target sets that are kind of outlined in previous things. The 5x5, $5 billion, 5 days, using all of our heavy air assets and the rest of it. Target like the besiege IRGC leadership down to the lieutenant level, all of their headquarters down to like the neighborhood headquarters, all of the conventional military, so like land-based military, so all the tanks and APCs and artillery, tube, rocket, propelled, self-propelled and towed, helicopters and rotor wing aircraft have gone, all the stuff in the Strait of Hormuz. You still have roughly about, between the IRGC and the besiege, 450,000 to 2 million, depending on whose analysis you look at, because things are fluid and they're still trying to maintain assessments and stuff, and that's ever changing and all this other stuff. So even lower than 450,000. You'll still have those people. Some of them would defect. Some of them would probably flee, and some of them, and a lot of them, because they're so ideologically brainwashed, would be committed to carrying out acts of final acts of whatever, of terrorism and or waging a long-term guerrilla campaign. As far as the Artesh, as best as we can assess from open intelligence sources. I mean, I'm just going through the history, not for you, Arlie, and our anti-Mullah Persian allies in the chat and or in the in this on the show or in the chat, because you know far more than I do, just by very nature of your personal connection to it. It was created, by the Shah. It's like the Artesh was not newly built; it was actually Persian reform remnant of the Shah's imperial army, right? So initially, it had the Khomeini, the mullahs created the IRGC as a safeguard, as a regime safeguard against the Artesh, because those were not their people. Over time, the IRGC tried to change the ideological makeup of the Artesh. So, I mean, it's not Well, some people would say it's a fully post-revolutionary institution because all the senior leaders, except for a few holdovers like earlier ones, are products of the IRGC's military colleges with decades of mandatory ideological training via the ideological political organization. Am I right on that, Ali? The IPO, it's a kind of a cleric-led body direct reporting to the Ayatollah and remains embedded at every level. So the ideological now, it's more thoroughly Islamicized on paper. Here's the issue, though. However, most analysts, MEI, it's Military Middle East Institute, AEI, etc., consistently their assessment is it's much less ideologically and more professionally nationalist than the IRGC, right? So the IRGC's core mission is revolutionary in nature. Artesh is more conventional territorial defense. So what does that kind of mean with regards to buy into the Mullah regime and how that would play out? So institutional pragmatic loyalty, to some degree enforced through promotion based on ideological reliability, patronage, economic rewards via bonyads. If I mispronounce it, forgive me, Ali. It's just late, and I tragically don't speak Farsi. Even for our test leaders, they got surveillance. The Mullah regime and its remnants have surveillance and selective repression. As far as deep ideological fervor, it is far, far, far lower, at least to the best of our assessment, regarding the IRGC and the besieged. And we've seen that as it's been kept out of domestic crackdowns. And it's also why, some reports of internal fractures of supply streams in the Artesh. Right? So that's the thing. The ones that are there, almost assuredly, His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and the transitionary government, they have those contexts. That's why all these other people that are pushing for other horses very much come off like those trying to fragment the Iranian resistance, solidarity amongst Iranian resistance. I think Ali's very correct on that. And Ali was also correct when he said that there's a reason His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi keeps that card very close to his chest, because it's an arrow he can shoot once. Let's say we do the bombing campaign. The Artesh comes out, they're going to start pulling, because that's just how they're trained. They're like 2/3 of them are conscripts, so they're training like conventional military, right? These are not like besieged douchebags that rape people off the street. They're just conscripts, right? So they would definitely be able to guard like cities and play a role in guarding critical infrastructure and what is it, like oil refineries, so Iranian people have something to rebuild. And it would definitely be a safeguard against, say, all the external Durka douchebags that the regime remnants imported in and were driving around in like the, Durka Barbie fucking pickup trucks with their, Dashuka machine guns. That's true. The issue with that, though, is that the bad guys will just modify their strategy and fight a long-term guerrilla campaign, which is why you taking off, Ida? Sleep tight. All my love, Ida. That's why, training the 20,000 the 20,000 personnel, kind of like the Neo-Savak outside of Iran, so that they would be an effective force to counter any kind of long-term guerrilla campaign. And they would be able to do so in a much more efficient manner, both for the good guy like blue forces as well as the non-combatant. I don't even want to say non-combatants, because the fucking IRGC and the siege treats anybody who's not them as combatants, including disproportionately Iranian citizens. Let's just say non-besieger IRGC unwilling combatants, right? I don't know how else they're so shitty. I don't even know how to refer to their victims, just how fucked up the regime remnants is. They would be that kind of that counterinsurgency, counterterrorism, and anti-death squad strategy would be far more efficient in fleshing out the IRGC and besiege. And that's going to take some time to invest, right? Because you just can't magic in, you're talking about bare minimum 8 months of training. Ideally, it would be 1 year and 8 months. 1 year and 8 months, you would have Neo Savak ready to go. Like they would be ready to, that's Neo Savak. That'd be something akin to like what like the CIA would have or something. So, I mean, that's kind of where things shake out. That's stuff that a lot of Iranian resistance, that's some of the things we have to keep into account on anything going forward, regardless of what happens at the national level. Hopefully that wasn't too meandering. Forgive me, it went on so long. Thank you for extending me the time to be able to share that observation.
Well, that's the value of you saying this. It's like, this is like a whole professor class type, explains everything, gives you all the background information. It's the best. So yeah, so you touched on everything. So here, I'll start here, guys. Basically, Jeffrey's saying that the Atesh was an incredible force in the time of the Shah. And I think it was like top 10 militaries or something of the world at the time. After the revolution, the Islamists came in and took the heads out, okay, of the Atesh, replacing them with their own, basically pro-mullah ones. And they started working their way down from the top. But they can only go down to some level. The lower level commanders, the bulk of the infantry, the people just, working there, they're just regular people. So in Iran, you have mandatory military service. So all males, once you hit age 18, you are now in queue to go and serve in the military for 2 years. And most of them are just people. They're just regular people. They're not like these super rich pro IRGC. They're the regular people. They're not ideologically, in fact, they hate it. So that is why the IRGC was founded, because there's so many of the Artish, and it was so powerful back then. You needed to create an institution that would keep them in check. And that's what it's done this entire time. They starve the army of resources, of everything, really. And so what you need to do now is, preferably with enough time, so like 1 year and 8 months, let's say like next 2 years, you train up about 20,000 people, is Jeffrey's plan. 20,000 people like me who are of Iranian descent and who are able to, we have no family, there's nothing tying us, holding us down. We got all this training, intelligence, weapons, like the whole sort, right? Become elite soldiers. Send them into Iran. They take out as many IRGC as possible. And then after the revolution is over, they serve the purpose of becoming basically not only just intelligence, but they can branch out into everything like police, secret service, army commanders, everything. They'll have the training to do it. And you springboard the country forward that way. And in-servers asking who's training them. Well, it's no secret. It'd be the Green Berets, it'd be the Rangers, basically the United States, maybe some NATO forces in there, whoever's willing at that point, really. And I got so disappointed. I saw a report come out that said they just hit Kesh Island with a few explosions, but I'm pretty sure this person is just bluffing. Unless it's corroborated. But anyway, yeah, it's an excellent plan. It just, I wish we had the time. I don't know if we will. We might. It might end up being dragged that long. And no, and so we're not after you make a deal with them. This is just separate. This is like the long-term plan to fight the IRGC. It's not a, we're going to make a deal with some people or not. Basically, the army is just weak. It can't by itself do anything against the IRGC, anything meaningful. So it has to work in coordination with a bunch of other factors in there. So yeah, thank you so much, Jeffrey. Who's next?
Okay, guys, you can drop a 1 in the chat to start a new topic. You can ask Ali anything you want. We're training him to be a verbal warrior like Paul Atreides. My topic is, within the Iranian diaspora, there are factions which I would expect to be aligned against the IRGC, but they actually work against each other. The tomato sauce attack on His Royal Highness may be an example of this. Can you help me navigate these factions and why they don't work together?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a super simple faction difference. There's one faction that's me, pro-Shah, okay, which is the majority of the people of the diaspora. Then there's a few other factions. So one that is pro-regime, one that is anti-regime and anti-monarchist, one is pro-MEK, and then you have, yeah, I was going to say idiots, but then they're kind of all the same there. So the reason why these three factions work against the pro-Shah faction is just simple, is that the majority of the people in Iran want the Shah. So automatically, if you're part of any other faction, you're going against the majority of what people want. That is the reason why it's working against us. The MEK is pretty obvious. They're Marxist, Islamist, cult-driven, just, it would be just as bad, I think, in the end to have them, if not worse. So you can't have that. The problem with the biggest faction that's anti-Shah are the people who are anti-regime and anti-monarchist. And that's the second biggest faction. Biggest faction pro-Shah, second biggest faction people who don't want anything. They don't want the regime, they don't want the monarchy, they want something. I have not, as of to this day, I can't get an answer out of them. I ask them, what's your solution or what do you want? And they don't have they just say, I don't want this. And they don't tell me what they actually want. So I don't know. I can't tell you because they don't even know it themselves. But that's the biggest problem, is because most young people don't spend more than, like, to be honest with you, maybe like 10 seconds researching what's going on right now. They'll show up sometimes, but they don't even know what they're showing up for. And I'm talking about young, like we're talking about like 16, 17, 18, which is like the future. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's TikTok brain. Maybe it's something else. But when I've talked to them at protests, they're just like, oh yeah, we're just kind of here because everyone else is. And then I asked a lot of other friends, and they were like, yeah, they also say the same thing. And this is just an anecdotal thing, like this is a personal thing. But it does get me a little concerned, because when you hear we don't want the mullahs and we don't want the regime, some people might be like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'm not part of a faction. Well, yes, you are actually. I can choose for myself. Well, you're not supposed to. You're in the diaspora, and your job is to amplify the voices of the Iranian people. You're not going to be able to sit here and choose what they want over there. It's as simple as that. People don't realize that simple difference. That is the most destructive group. I don't want this and I don't want that. And even then, they're not strong enough to actually have a say or a difference.
Okay, next we have Jeffrey.
So just real quick to bounce off that, I kind of say this to some of the isolationist elements in the patriotic bloc. I mean, understandably, there's war weariness and some distrust of state institutions because of them being weaponized and all of that. It doesn't matter if you choose to not, even if you choose to not engage with the war, it doesn't mean the war will not choose to engage with you. There is no choice the choice is not engage or not engage. It's choosing how you're going to engage. The enemy gets a vote. That's why isolationism doesn't work, right? The enemy gets a vote. Very well put, Ali.
You just said everything I said in a much better way. Is that, like, think of it this way. It's like the regime is like, let me grab everyone that I can. And then, the monarchists, which is me, are going to be like, okay, now we grab everyone that we can, which we don't really have to do because everyone's kind of like on our side already. But if you're not part of the monarchist camp, you're probably going to be pulled in to the other ones, and you're not going to just stay neutral. A lot of people will be like, I hate politics. I don't want to have any part in politics. And I'm like, I don't really see this as politics, because there's like, you don't really get to like advocate for someone that you want. And there's none of that's going on. It's really just survival. The country will survive if we have Prince Reza Pahlavi go back, and it will thrive, or our country is going to turn into North Korea with the way things are going. That's not politics to me. And the regime is already using not only diaspora Iranians who are anti-Shah, they're using the Democrats, the left, Norway's deputy foreign minister, like anyone.
Okay. In a let's say in a post-transition government or during a transition government, what do you think would be the political parties that would form in a transitionary Iran? I'm trying to get you to kind of steel man your opposition a little bit.
Oh yeah. It'll be pretty simple. So you vote on the form of government first, which will be the constitutional monarchy, or we'll have a form of a republic. And I'm imagining that that republic looks pretty similar to the United States' form of republic, with probably some changes there, maybe like some updates. Most people are probably going to vote for the constitutional monarchy, and let's just go with that. Now you have the constitutional monarchy, and the beauty of the Constitution, for example, the beauty of the United States Constitution is that it can be changed. Okay, now you have different parties. Okay, so you'll have like what the UK has. We've talked about that before. They have like Green Party, this party, Reform Party, whatever. Now we're not going to devolve and degenerate into that. But what's going to happen is you have the Monarchy Party. I'm just giving it random names. They'll have different names. Who want Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi to be the prime minister, and they want Nur Pahlavi, his daughter, to be the Shah. And that way, Nur Pahlavi can have time to learn and get situated and get acclimated to it. And Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, who probably only has another like 10, 12, maybe 15 years max in him to be working at this level before stress just overtakes him, is going to be the prime minister in charge of taking our country not only through the transitional period, which would happen before we vote on this, but through the first 15 years of the establishment of our new monarchy. To run against him, man, I'm struggling to find what kind of parties there would exist.
Okay, next to respond, we have. Okay, go ahead.
But right before we go to that, it's just hard for me to imagine that after this new country is established and you have like tens of millions of people supporting this one party. This one party, by the way, has this entire drafted plan that they've had decades to think about. And they're going to cover all the bases. I would like to see who goes, is trying to run against him, which is a good thing. We want that. I'm just not sure, like, what they would say. Like, are you going to counter Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi's points? How's that going to go? For sure, there will be no Islamist party. Like,
just let Reza Pahlavi try to narratively destroy his opponents if his political opponents try to destroy him.
Okay. Next to respond, we have Rebecca, which is actually about the potential Islamist party. Rebecca, you there? We'll jump to Jeffrey, and Rebecca will get you right after.
So that's actually one of the reasons why in the Track 2 material support strategy, it has non and lesser kinetic lines of effort that can be done now legally, right? In the fighting facilities part of that, like the non-kinetic is pre-bunking, debunking, mullah, regime remnant, disinformation, lawfare. Lesser kinetic lines of effort, and this is very important, is things like open source image measurement-based intelligence assessment, link analysis. something like the Bellingcat model that was used for anti-Assad forces in Syria. That's part of it, right, Yusuf? Because what you said was very important, like both identifying the very nodes and or organization operational ties between those that are trying to undermine perceptions of legitimacy of His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi as part of a broader effort to undermine or fragment the anti-mullah bloc, right, or the anti-mullah Iranian resistance throughout Iran's diaspora. The whole point of that is to undermine the resistance effort or efficacy in liberating, realizing the liberation of Iran from the regime remnants that tragically at the moment still, albeit ever decreasingly, occupy Iran. Those are reasons why those things can be pursued those efforts can be pursued much quicker than the time it takes to develop the kinetic lines of effort. And that strategy is meant to leverage all of those different lines of effort in a manner that is a homogenized strategy where they're mutually reinforcing, right? So Yusuf, what you just said, what you're doing, super fucking important. That's legitimately, you are a foot soldier in the battle of the narratives, in the soft power battle space that in no insignificant manner will define the outcome of this effort. Just like Ali, just like Armin, just like Goldie, just like Tusi, just like His Highness Prince Reza Pahlavi and everybody else in this room. I want to thank you for sharing what you did.
Thank you. Yeah, if I can have a bigger channel and reach more people, that means I get to influence more people in the future, so I can teach them about, what's going on, and they will vote influenced by what I say. So this is like the foundation to that. Yeah, it's crazy to think about. And then also, yeah, I was thinking about the party thing, political parties. I'm not sure if there'll be more than like 2 or 3 in the beginning, but I think once Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi steps down as being the prime minister, I think a lot more parties are going to form because that unifying figure is going to be stepping down from the political stage, and more people will be stepping up at that time, and time will have passed. So that'll definitely be, in my lifetime. Well,
Okay. Just want to put it out there. Anybody who wants to start a new topic, it's an open season. So Sketch, welcome. If you anything you want to talk about, go ahead and talk about it. I wanted to say, I think there's a lot of stuff currently kind of codes to the right with monarchists and stuff like that. And I think in an actual free Iran situation, you'll probably see a lot more between the left and the right. I think the left is more present than I think we might think, even inside of Iran. So we'll see, but that's yeah. Next topic, Ali, unless you have something to say, we have another topic.
I was gonna say, like, maybe he would become a diplomat after prime minister. I think that would be a natural role.
I mean, he's already 65, 66. By the time transitional phase, prime minister is going to be well into his late 70s.
Okay, let him just enjoy the fruits of his labor.
Yeah.
I don't know of anyone else in the royal family. I know, I would like to know more.
Yeah, he has 3 daughters and he has a wife. His oldest daughter is named Noor, which means light. And she is basically going to follow his footsteps, it seems. And she's very smart. She hasn't had a lot of exposure, and it's smart to keep it that way. But you want the spotlight on Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, and in the future there will be a lot more spotlight on her, but she's pretty much like, she's aligned with him, and if she turns out to be you know, like him, then we're set. Like it's going to be great for decades to come. At the end of the day, though, if we go with the constitutional monarchy, you got the monarchy, which will be Nur Pahlavi. She'll be the Shah, or queen in English. Shah doesn't have a gender for us. And then you'll have the prime ministers that come and go. So, yeah, she's the one.
Would I don't know if you guys already talked about this, but would the monarchy have that that thing that I know that the British crown can disband, not disband, but like fire everyone in the house? I know their system is different, and I know that I think her name is Takaishi, the lady in Japan. She could call a snap election. I don't know if the monarchy would like have any of those two powers as last resort, but I think it can be good if you have like a stable thing, that if things are getting too crazy, like the problem they had was that the prime minister nationalized the oil company. I don't know if you guys went over this. Did you guys go over this?
In Iran?
Okay, so what happened in Iran was Mossadegh. Mossadegh was like a lot of his financing and his stuff came from the Russian side, right? Some of the separatist Kurds, like we just call them separatists, and the communists got in line and they started funding this guy Mossadegh. Mossadegh gets into power and he starts nationalizing these companies, right? Once they start nationalizing these companies, they have a problem because these no outside company is going to want to deal with you if you're just gonna if I pay for a building, build a building, and you're just gonna come one day and say, oh, it's the government's now. And I'm from an outside, I'm from an outside nation. I'm creating your oil infrastructure, and you go and do that. I'm not gonna want to do business with you, right? So that's the problem that the Shah had with Mossadegh. And what I think it was absolutely within his rights to have him like basically fired for that, for going against like some basic contracts and going a little bit beyond the scope of what was right for the time. I'm brushing with broad strokes here, but that's pretty much what happened. But even though now, because we are more informed, we can see that power was good to have at that time, because we're counting on no internet. There's no open source intel. It's just what the news says. Well, it was seen as very bad. But I believe in these days, some kind of backstop to crazy government is good to have on the long run, because like for us, we have the Supreme Court. Maybe you guys would have one in your constitution. The Supreme Court, because they're not subject to terms and they're not subject, they can keep going. They don't have to change their mind or change, what they think to get elected again. You understand what I'm saying? They don't have to run again. It's a lifelong appointment. What does that mean? Well, once I'm here, I don't care if the Democrats don't like it. I think it's the correct interpretation of the law. I don't care if the Republicans don't like it. I believe that's the correct interpretation of the law. This acts as a safeguard because it's slower to how it submit itself to the changing whims of the public. The crowds are fickle. Like the crowds can be very fickle, and you don't want a fickle crowd to be in control of the law. The law should be a little slow when it comes to big changes. So I was just wondering about that, if anybody talked about it, knows about it. I think it's an interesting subject when it comes to discussing the structure of government. And, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, good points. People are very fickle. Here's the reason why people don't talk about this, is because first you have to win the revolution, then you have the transitional phase, then after the transitional phase, then you have that potential constitutional monarchy or republic or whatever. So people see it as so far ahead in the future, and it is something where people will elect or like choose MPs, like member of parliaments, and then these member of parliaments are going to basically decide upon things like that. And you'll have the founding fathers who will just write this new constitution as well. So I would ask those questions to those people who are literally going to be like, I know them off the top of my head. So it's going to be Crown Prince Reza Pahlavi, Noor Pahlavi, Yasmin Pahlavi, Kamran, who's the chief of staff of Crown Prince Pahlavi, and Saeed Nejad. Those five for sure. And then there's another one as well. I think his name is Amir.
Ali Samani.
No, I will at one point in my life run for parliament in Iran, but that'll be when I'm like 50. But
Okay.
But yeah, so that's the reason why people don't talk about it. But my biggest fear after we win and everything is that people are fickle. And if things don't turn out to go the way that they want to go in the time that they want it to go, people might turn against, people that they previously were supporting, which we've seen throughout history all the time. But yeah,
Takes time though.
That's all I'll say about it, because the more we talk about that, the more we kind of like put what we're going through right now.
I think you wouldn't live to see it. I think you're like, what happened? Like, I'll tell you, some of the people that leave China, escape China, are the most anti-communist. People who escape Russia are the most anti-communist. People who escape Cuba, they hate those regimes. So I believe it would be a long time. They may be fickle about their parties, but not about the through line, right? They might have like, this guy is not as good as that guy, but that's not the same as I stopped believing in private property and I want a theocracy again. That's not that probably won't come back for generations. I believe it would probably take it's usually 3 generations where they dumb themselves down enough to forget. I don't think you'd see that in your lifetime.
I hope so, man. I hope so. That we can say that statement. You know why? Because we haven't had generations like Gen Z or Gen A, or like we haven't had the generations like me yet, where our attention spans are a fraction of the generations before us, with the most amount of mental illnesses that any generation has ever had, with the highest amount of stress levels that any generation of human history has ever had, bar war and famine and all things like that. It's like a completely different beast. So I sure hope so. Sure hope so. I was going to answer this question. This person.
I'll try to say it for you. Rebecca is asking.
There was a question in the chat that I was going to spend like 5 seconds on.
No problem.
So, Mame is asking, who is Mariam Rajavi? And that is the head of the MEK. She is, okay, let's see. She's a Marxist Islamist, okay? She's completely insane, like on a psychological level. And she owns and operates a cult out of like some Eastern European country, where she has like an army of like little girls or like teenage girls who like all dress and look the same, and she's indoctrinated them from like birth, pretty much. It's like a completely like insane person. Anyway, yeah, go on, Ian.
Okay, love cult leaders, especially when they have lots of Mercedes and stuff. Okay, the next question was from Rebecca. She's asking about Islamist participation in the potential democratic government. So that would be an Islamist party or some other democratic participation after a transition.
Oh man, Rebecca, don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. Here's the thing. We can't ban them, but no one is going to support them to a point where they can influence anything. Just imagine this. Let's just say in a world where they get a seat at Parliament. Okay, you see a mullah in the New Iran Parliament. Okay, who do you think is gonna like side with him? It's like it's political suicide to even be seen sitting next to him. It's like the worst thing ever. Like you're gonna be destroyed all over social media instantly. You're gonna lose all your support. I would never worry about that. So in terms of like a party, I'm not really too worried about them. What I am worried about is that the mullahs have like insurgent tendencies where they like blow stuff up and like assassinate people and stuff like that. Politically, not so much. I'm not really worried about that.
Respond, we have Sketch.
Yeah, I was gonna say that turned out bad in Turkey. In Turkey, they tried to slam down not so much an MEK as a political You're talking about the MEK people, right? That they dress the same. That there's this one lady that's kind of like the MEK cult leader. They all dress the same. Yeah, okay. It's not exactly this, but it goes to what you were saying about let them operation in the news. They call it Operation Let Them Speak, right? Because the things they say is so retarded that it turns people off. But if you bar them from speaking, you bar them from doing anything, then it builds a resentment. It becomes like a different thing. Now, this happened in Turkey, and in Turkey, they went real hard against Islam, and the backlash is the Turkey you have now. I can't explain it as well as Apostate Prophet, but he really spoke on it, and he thought that the best way to go against Islam, number one, their Sharia does things that are kind of inhumane. You can't have the child marriages, of course. You can't have a lot of the things that Sharia would put into the law. But you give them, and I think they didn't. You shouldn't let them have a loyalty if they are in representation of the country. You can't have them have a loyalty that's not to the nation. But I believe that as long as these things are met, just the secularism itself and just dealing with them appropriate. Like I wouldn't want that in America either, right? You don't let them have their laws. What the problem we have is legal enclaves. But I don't think barring them completely from speaking is good. I think that you're on the money, and I'm going to try to find that clip for you from Apostate Prophet where he talks on it.
Yeah,
because it really backfired in Turkey.
Yeah, and guys, here's why I think this, and here's why Armin thinks this. Here's why Sketch thinks this. If we ban these parties, like the Communist Party or the Islamist Party, it's going to be a pretty good way for them to just move underground and start all this like deceptive ways of gathering people, and it'll be a pretty good PR line for them to be like, you know, we're like the resistance or we're the revolution and like things like this. But if you let them have like their public statements and like come out and they're like campaigning for their own thing, what do you think the other political parties, what do you think the monarchist party is going to do, or the other parties? They're going to attack all of their points, disprove everything, put it all over social media and everything, which is going to be the way going forward. And you can publicly address these people because now all of a sudden, like, they're an actual political party. They're not like terrorists, and you don't want to be, you know, so it's better. It's better. Most people will also know and associate Islam with misery, and yeah, they're finished. They're basically finished. If we win this, they're finished. Because just imagine the amount of education we can give children going up, just simply educating them about what's happened in the past 47 years, and then creating an environment where, like, let's just say I'm a social media persona and the government I get a contract from the government of like, you know, we want you to teach as many people outside and inside of Iran about what the mullahs actually did. Okay, well now kids who watch me, maybe I'm like a persona for like teenagers, whatever, they're gonna be like, oh damn, that's bad, that sucks. And now everyone's like, okay, well, it's uncool to be Muslim, it's uncool to like believe in that kind of stuff, so I'm not gonna be. And then you're like, okay, you don't want to be Muslim anymore? Here you go. Iranian. You know, like this is the nationalistic. By the way, guys, we have thousands of year history. We've done this, we've done that. Like, here's our important figures in history, and we're gonna be like, wow, Islam bad, Iranian nationalism good. That's the whole goal.
I found some quotes on it. It says that the Ataturk secular reforms abolished the caliphate, religious courts, and religious schools. Many conservatives saw this as anti-Islam, creating resentment that the Mandirs, Erbakan, and later Erdogan. Erdogan sounds familiar. Used to restore public Islam and build today's religious nationalist state. So there is a backlash from completely clamping down.
Yeah, and yeah, that was a criticism of Ataturk. No, or Ian, sorry, who's next?
Next, I think we have Sophie to respond.
I just had a question. I just wanted to clarify, ask Ali or Armin and Ali and everybody's position on that. Isn't there a situation? I understand what you're saying about the communists and things like that, and people going underground. I got that point, but I'm wondering, in the written constitution that people will vote on, can't they at least make it very, very clear that it's a firm secular state, so that if people start trying to use Western, like what they're doing in Europe and US about like justifying Islam and trying to weave it into things, that right up there is just stopped in its tracks? Yes or no?
Yeah, I think people will already do that. Like, that's not even something I have to do or even talk about. Like, it's just going to happen. Yeah, definitely.
I think they would enshrine private property rights, and as long as you do that, you can't redistribute.
Just before I go to bed, I got a question.
Okay, yeah, I'll answer your question, but Yusuf, next time, if you could put a 1 or a 2 in the chat, that'd be better.
I did put a 1.
Okay, cool. Yeah,
I just wanted to ask, how could we arm the Iranian people properly, meaning making sure that it doesn't accidentally go into the wrong hands?
Yeah, so no airdrops, okay? So you bring in weapons through other ways that are much more covert. And then by thinking arm the Iranian people, don't picture like tens of millions of Iranians suddenly having AKs in their hands. You're going to have to think like more in like the tens of thousands maximum, okay? And these weapons are going to be smuggled in one way or another, secretly, given to the people who Prince Reza Pahlavi trusts, to the Garda Javidan, the Immortal Guard, and to Mossad spies. They will then distribute those weapons to the people that they have networks with and give them as much training as possible. That's how we can arm them.
Okay, now I gotta get going to bed because I'm starting to feel tired. Have a good night, all of you.
Good night. Okay.
Before you go, he left. I was just gonna say that Armin, we've had this discussion with Jeff. Like, we've had this discussion numerous times, and I was just gonna tell him that there's probably videos of us discussing this on Armin's channel that are clipped and to length, and discuss this deeper. But he left. I can't tell him. Anyone watching, you also have that resource.
Okay, I was going to say, I think Miriam Rajavi needs better costumes, man. That's for a cult leader. It's just not what I'm looking for. You know, she needs to look up the Raelians. That's what I have to say. Next topic is Jeffrey about Iran's shadow fleet. Go ahead.
So one of the ideas, what's the issue? So part of it is funding for Track 2 material support. The other issue is maximizing economic pain to the Mullah regime remnants, to deny them the resources they need to sustain their regime. One of the ideas I had, I'll be floating. So I'm glad Sophie's here because you're a lawyer. I want your idea. I want your thoughts on this. It may not be your focus of law. I don't know what your focus is. That said, you're a trained lawyer. So, as you know, Article 1, Section 8, Clause 11 of the Constitution explicitly gives Congress the power to quote unquote declare war, grants letters of marque and reprisal. And what the idea is having Congress pass the Iran Shadow Fleet Marquee Reprisal Act of whatever year, right? It would authorize the president to commission qualified Iranian opposition-linked private maritime operators. It would, of course, require security bonds, rules of engagement, identification markings. In other words, you have to follow the rules and partly defined in the Fort Geneva Convention, Article 2, Item 2, that outlines certain things you have to fulfill to be considered a lawful unconventional combatant. Grant U.S. legal immunity for actions under the letters inside U.S. jurisdiction, and then set up a mechanism for the proceeds to flow to Prince Reza Pahlavi-linked groups like a National Council of Resistance or any other designated anti-regime entity. What it would allow is then those anti-mullah Iranian PMCs to seize shadow fleet tankers, auction the oil, and funnel the money to anti-mullah efforts. That's one of the ideas. As I'm thinking about, like, how do you? I know that I know it's not easy, Ali. Right? I know the mullahs are killing people. Right? So even like the training part, you're like, how do we minimize that time as quickly as possible? At the donation part, right, throughout the diaspora, it would take for 20,000 to get trained the way they are. I mean, I kind of gave you the back of the envelope stuff, PM, right? Like 80 something weeks at everybody giving $100 a week. I mean, then it just sustains itself. That said, it's a lot easier to reach your monetary goal if you have highly trained and U.S. sanctioned Iranian PMCs that can then seize Iranian or mullah regime oil tankers. Each one of those is a couple $100 million, like as a windfall. So I'm trying to find ways to expedite reaching the funding target that you need to be able to sustain the training in mass so that we can expedite as quick as possible to make the butcher bill as low as possible. That's one of the ideas I've been floating around with for the past day. I'll probably include that as an addendum when I finally get all 7 volumes done, and I'm going to give you a copy of it. But I wanted to hear what people's thoughts are on that, particularly Sophie, because she has training in law.
Thank you. Yeah, guys, so Jeffrey's saying it would be very much ideal if you're going to train up these 20,000, Savak, the next Savak, the 20,000 elite soldiers for New Iran, to just go and seize a IRGC Shadow fleet oil tanker, okay? And it'll be flagged out of like a different country. So it's actually IRGC owned and operated, but it's like the flag of that ship is like, I don't know, like Ecuador or something, right? And the company, the shell company that operates that tanker is located in Thailand, right? So there's a lot of legal gray area because there's a lot of like different countries' law. Is it different countries? Is it international court? Like who knows what's going on? And if we could seize that tanker, we can sell that oil, and boom, all of the funds that we need to support our fighters, done. Yeah, so Sophie, what do you think about that?
So I just was checking, and I would refer, Jeffrey did this thing like Heritage Foundation has. I mean, there's 2 schools of thoughts on this, and I favor theirs. And so it very much is similar to the war power stuff in that some people hold this view that Congress is required even in declaring war. And it's very similar to looking at that. You have to look at it with the power of the purse. And so the courts are not going to get involved. And if there's a previous appropriation and the president has access to those, no one can control, no one can tell him, stop him from initiating hostilities, responding to hostilities. He is the commander in chief. So I think that you know the answer, Jeffrey, and I would support that.
Okay, so I think Sophie's meaning that we can do it, that there's not a lot of like arguments or anything that can be put against us, because the IRGC is going to have to claim that Shadow Fleet tanker, and then that would create more problems for them. And us taking that is, it's kind of like if a criminal wants to snitch on you, where you're like, well, you're a criminal, like you just sold me that drug. What are you going to do? Go to the police if I don't give you the money? Like,
Okay, next to respond, we have Sketch.
Yeah, we had something like this, but it was pertaining more to the sea. We had HR 1238 introduced by, let me see what it was, Mike Lee and Tim Burchett. It went all into the news for a while, like we were trying to make letters of marque, legalize piracy, we're taking your stuff, you're not even supposed to have it. So that's what they were going to try. That was more pertaining to the cartels. I don't know if they would do anything similar to that with the IRGC. I think there are some legal routes because they are even closer linked to terrorists than the cartels. And let me see, I had something here. Closest thing that did pass is not privateering. It is the sanctions law, the SHIP Act inside Public Law 18-50, which targets foreign persons, ports, vessels, and transaction helping move in Iranian petroleum. So that's the one, the SHIP Act. This is the one that we would use. I would say that it is within the administration's power to do this, but sometimes I'm like, we keep asking permission from the legislative branch to do stuff we're just supposed to do. And I don't know if that helps us or if we're tying our own hands unnecessarily, because I don't know enough about the law. But so why are we asking permissions to do stuff we have the legal authority to do as the executive branch? I don't even understand that. It's like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But you guys that know more about the law, you probably know better than me.
Okay, next to respond, we have R.R. Halda, PhD.
Never mind. I think my question's a little bit off topic, or my response would be off topic to what you guys are talking about right now.
Okay, cool. So we have about 25 minutes left, and the next topic is BT with democracy in the West and foreign influence.
Okay, hi Ali. Oh my gosh, first time caller, long time listener. Okay, so my question is, so I want to start with a little statement and then a question. So I believe, and I'm sure many others would agree, democracy is only as good as the education of the society, right? In the West, particularly America, we've allowed foreign aid to heavily influence higher education. And the only person I can think of in recent history who has run her presidency on the focus of education was Elizabeth Warren, whether you liked her or not. All of that said, have we totally taken democracy for granted in the West?
It sounds like you're asking that question knowing the answer.
I would like your opinion and maybe a little bridge to what we saw happen in Iran and maybe your warning to the West. What could we learn from Iranians right now?
Yeah, okay, so my warning to the West and what we could learn from the Iranians is really simple. And I know you're trying to get at the, okay, so you guys have democracy in the West. If you give it up, you will not get it back easily. And what I would like to point out for that is people like Mamdani are very, very similar to Khomeini, who is the first supreme leader of the Islamic Republic. They come in, they have these ideologies, and then they tell you that they're going to give you a nice life. Things will be free or very inexpensive. Everyone's going to have this, everyone's going to have that. And then they get power, and the reality is much different. And I would warn against things that are too good to be true. In terms of education, the quality of it has dropped off a cliff. And sure, people can watch and talk about AI and how that's doing, you know, like a lot of damage for education, and it really is. But it started way before that, and AI is accelerating that. We're getting to a point where, in terms of our future, there's a couple of things happening that are really worrying. Okay, you have aging populations, but it also means people aren't having as many kids because it's just too expensive. And I think the only continent in the world with a positive birth rate is Africa. Okay, so you don't have kids, which means there's less of them in school. The education's getting worse. So now you have fewer people who have more weight, who are badly informed and incapable of critical thinking. And then you have someone come in, like Mamdani or someone else, and promise them all these wonderful things. And I fear that they won't be able to see through that veil. So that's my lesson.
So if I'm understanding you correctly, it's more of a warning to the left than it is the right?
Sure. Who's next to respond?
Sorry, my mic was
No, you're good.
my mic. Sorry. Next to respond, we have Sketch, and we have one more topic tonight, trying to fit it in. So,
Okay.
do what you can, guys.
We have some movement on this. We have a lot of influence from the outside in colleges. There have been a lot of investigations going down. One of the people that was in it, the funny one, is Hassan Piker, the dog shocker. But this goes in relation to Code Pink. Code Pink is one of these influence operations that are very big, trying to do pretty much the same thing that was done in Iran. I would love that this investigation went into all of their financial transaction, and that is what they're tracking. They're going into their financial transactions. They're going into their history, their messaging. And this guy, Neville, I think it's Neville Singham, something like that. And all these Code Pink people, they get a lot of funding from the outside. And if you look at the funding, there's about, I think it's 6 to 7 billion from China, 5 to 6 billion from, I think it was Qatar. And there's just a lot of influence operations through NGO that when you get down to the nitty gritty and you follow that money, what you're going to find is that they're funding violent people, like these Antifa people that are very violent and just doing illegal ops. I believe if you follow the money, that's what you're going to find. I'm glad to see some movement on it, but justice is so slow that it can lead to despair sometimes, specifically on this type of finance issue.
Next up, Jeffrey.
Yeah, I mean, again, the parallel you see, particularly with regards to what occurred in the tragedy that occurred in Iran in 1979, is the role that leftists played in the Red-Black Alliance in taking down, displacing the noble house of Pahlavi, and specifically the role that leftists hijacked or captured Western universities played in inculcating and or developing elements of the Red-Black Alliance, particularly when the Shah sent Iranian students overseas to gain skill sets to help then import those skills into Iran to further expedite Iran's progression towards an era of tolerant modernity as it was defined then. I mean, he was an amazingly forward-looking person and didn't know that those institutions had been hijacked. Right? I'll never forget it. There was elements amongst the anti-Mullah diaspora right after the terrorist attack of October 7th against Israel. And you had radical leftists and Islamic fundamentalists in the Red-Green Alliance walking down the street by the tens, maybe hundreds of thousands, chanting about burning Jews in ovens and stuff. and it was, I screenshot it. I actually could probably find it and post it. Those Iranians who remember the tragedy that occurred in 1979 look at the alliance between radical leftists and Islamicists in Western major cities following the terrorist attack of October 7th with a deep sense of concern, because they know where this story ends. I think that's actually, in many ways, the history that, what is the history of the tragedy that befell Iranian people in 79 show? If anything, we should learn from what underwrote or created that tragedy. That's one of the best ways to honor those that suffered it. Right?
Exactly. And then when you see those Iranians who did learn that lesson come and tell people in the West that that is happening to them, and then the people in European countries and in New York City tell them that that's not the case, is really funny.
Okay, next topic is Kelly with Trump and Shah in occupied Iran.
Hi, Ali. Here's my dilemma that I heard from people in Iran last night. Well, a specific message from my husband that they are not rallying so much around the Shah anymore. And the reason for that is that Trump has not openly supported him, and they trust Trump more. And they believe that there are other people that have been living in Iran this whole time that may be better suited for the job. And I tried to send a message, but of course it didn't go through, that this is transitional. I'm just wondering how else we can get that out to them, because I feel like we need to stay united.
These are the same people who were just a few months ago were shouting Javid Shah and Pahlavi will return. And long story short,
Yeah.
I have no doubt that they will once again be shouting those very same things very soon. Right now, everyone is very, very stressed out in Iran. They're very uncertain about where things are going. And to be fair, most people are. And I get it. But hopefully they see soon. They see soon. A lot of them just don't have access to the information that we do. I get it. I get it. Like, people change their minds. But at the end of the day, these are the same people that were there a few months ago. They'll be back. They'll be back, and they'll be saying the same things and wanting the same things.
They were the same people, but like someone said in the chat, they are fatigued, they're tired, they're exhausted, they have no money. My father-in-law just died. He couldn't get a medical procedure. They're exhausted. Okay. So anything we can do to uplift them. And on this end, we're exhausted. Trying to support 2 households right now is really, it's, they need to do something.
Yeah. First, I'm sorry to hear that about your father-in-law. What we can do is, if there are rallies, you can go. You're already financially supporting your husband's family, and what more do you expect to be doing? I mean, you're in these discussion groups, you're learning, you're trying to give these tips and communications back to Iran, and I run into a similar roadblock that you do, where you tell them the hard cold facts and the logic, and because they're so tired and so stressed, it's hard for that to get through to them. And I think you know what I mean on that. There is, yeah, so I'll tell you after the live stream, there's 2 things that you can do, particularly just because of your own unique situation, but that's all. Yeah. And I'm sorry to hear that again.
Okay, to respond, we have Sketch and then Jeffrey.
What I would say is anyone that is a good leader on the ground, I'm sure Reza would want him. Like, you're not trying to make these people choose. I'm sure that if you have a strong leader, someone that's being supportive, someone that is uplifting the people in Iran in there right now, I have zero doubt that His Royal Highness would call on him. They might be a regional leader. They might be there. There, you don't need to pick and choose, right? If these people are seeing hope in anyone in there, let them grab onto any hope they can grab onto in there. I wouldn't say pick and choose. I would never say that. I would just, yeah, okay, if that guy's good, put him, rise him up. Don't try to cause like, oh, we're gonna have to choose between this guy and Shah. It's like, no, he may work with you. Probably, definitely, I would say. If any strong leaders that are in there right now, I would go away from the route of, oh, we don't believe in Shah, or we believe in Trump. If there are strong leaders in there, just keep them as a source of hope. If you have hope with some people in Iran, keep them as your source of hope. I mean, Trump may be great, but he's not going to be the Shah of Iran. He's not going to be the prime minister. He wants to be the prime minister of Israel. We know that's a joke. He may joke about being the prime minister of Iran one day. He's not actually going to do it. What you have to do is, like, remember, if you have good people in there, you have to rise them up. You have to remember them when all this is over. And if something happens to them, remember their deeds and let whatever happens to them be an inspiration and just, a page or a chapter in that book of the great rising of the new Iran.
Yeah, the leader point is very good. Here's why they will support Pahlavi again, even if they're saying that they trust Trump more. They will realize that right now they don't have like this leader who's very much clearly on their side, or so they think. Okay, most people still think that the Shah is like the leader. That's just the facts. But these people who think that maybe Trump is acting more in their best interest can tomorrow, if Trump today says, I'm back, I'm out, tomorrow they'll be like, okay, Bibi Netanyahu, you're our leader. Tomorrow Bibi's going to be like, I'm out. They're going to go back to Reza Pahlavi. He is the only leader. He's the only Iranian leader. There's no one else that they're going to turn to. That is why they come out to the streets to say his name. So I get that it's hard right now, but we'll get back there.
Jeffrey?
So one of the things that we looked at prior to the air campaign in February 28th was, we looked at a couple of things. One was using inert munitions to sit there and liberate attaches of weapons from like the Artesh and police departments, so that way people could arm themselves. The other one was finding ways to airdrop non-lethal material support, so food, pot of water, critical like medicine and stuff. I'm very sorry to hear what happened, Kelly. I'm sorry it happened in the way it should have. Just know that there are people who are working the problem in no insignificant matter out of memory for those that are lost. And that doesn't make it hurt any less, though. As inadequate as that may seem, right?
Thank you, Jeffrey.
Okay, next to respond, Ali Farbaksh.
Thank you. Ali kind of took my thunder a little bit with something he was stating, but in regards to people supporting other people besides the Shah, the reality is that's what the Shah is fighting for, so they have a choice. And right now we don't have a choice. So the point is that I think that it's okay if people are looking at people that are internally for future roles, but the reality is we're all fighting for that choice. And that's what I have people in my family that are suffering right now. In January, my uncle was shot, and he's very ill right now. You know, we all have our stories, but that's what I think it's important that people know that's what we're fighting for, is to have a choice. The Shah, yes, he is the person standing up for us and we all support him, but he's not the end solution, as he said himself. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, that's our last response.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah, so here's the thing. After this, yeah, I'll stay around for a second there, Kelly. I'm going to tell you after this. All right, guys, right now we're in the toughest time, okay? The time right before February 28th was pretty similar to this. A lot of uncertainty, a lot of noise, and we're just going to have to wait and see what happens. Regardless of what happens, the Iranian people should be relying on themselves the most forever. And that will be the way if no one else will help any further. And we will be grateful for the help that we've gotten so far. All right. Thank you, everyone who showed up. I'm going to go ahead and finish the live. I hope you guys all have a great night.